Hi, Ed. Thanks for the time today.
No problem.
So the first question I want to ask is, after the first loss to Neiman Gracie, you did go on a very good two-fight winning streak, and that shows that you learn from your losses, as all fighters do. So I want to ask, what things do you think you were the best takeaways from the Amosov loss?
From the MSOS loss, I was like, I learned that there's wrestling that's applicable to MMA and there's wrestling that doesn't work at all, especially when you start changing like minor factors. With MMA, I mean, like with wrestling, I always had shoes, socks, there was a whole singlet that you would wear. And when I go out there and I'm fighting, I realize that there you could slip a lot more if you go for you can't really go for an ankle pick. A lot of your moves from wrestling is kind of eliminated from MMA just from how you stand up, just from the stand up alone. And I've learned that there's more to being a complete fighter than just being good at just being good at your disciplines. It's like it's being good at putting the disciplines together and like knowing when to not do something and when to do something.
That makes a lot of sense. So I would assume in your training camp, are you working more of your striking more than your wrestling? Because you already know you have that wrestling down.
I honestly, I've been working a lot more on wrestling because I wanted to tie my striking and my wrestling together better. And I felt like in my earlier fights, I haven't been doing that just because when you go out there and like nobody knows how nervous a guy is, you don't even know how nervous you are yourself. And I realized that if I want to do this out in the cage, I got to start doing it at practice. So when I was in practice, I was trying to focus more on using my strikes to get to my wrestling rather than just relying solely on wrestling or solely on striking.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And last question I have, you coming from obviously your very accomplished wrestling background, those type of fighters seem to transition very, very well into MMA because of sort of the crossovers in between the two sports. So what would you say about your time in wrestling has made it a bit easier for you to cross over into MMA, like compared to other fighters, of course?
Um, how has it made it easier?
Yes.
Um, Definitely just because the whole world of MMA is very similar to wrestling. Just from like the weight cutting, the grind, it just brings a brotherhood, just a camaraderie around with you and your teammates. Just because it's such a hard sport to do, and so is wrestling. Wrestling is just you're with somebody. It's just you and another person testing your physical abilities against another person. You're imposing your will against this other person. It's that other person that determines whether you win or not. And I don't know how people if people really get how crazy that is. It's like you and someone else, and you both have expectations. You both have goals. You both have, and you're challenging each other in this cage, or you're challenging each other on the mat. And I feel like with wrestling and MMA, like everything is just so personal. It's so singular. It's like it's just me and it's just that guy. On a team, any other team or any other sport or organization, it's just like you have a lot of people you rely on. But with MMA and wrestling, it's just yourself. And I feel like it's prepared me. MMA wrestling has prepared me so well for MMA because it's like it got me to rely mostly on myself, to think about myself, to get used to pushing myself, to get used to my own grinds, to make me cut my weight myself.
Hi, Raymond. Thanks for the time today.
No problem.
So you mentioned earlier that you have your eyes on Douglas Lima and the welterweight strap, and that's obviously understandable. Now, you two have a common opponent as you fought Michael Venom Page in kickboxing, and he fought him in MMA. So as someone who's watched that fight, I'm sure, and someone who has the kickboxing pedigree probably higher than Michael Venom Page, what do you think that he did wrong that you could do better in terms of technical kickboxing when fighting Douglas Lima?
Oh, that's an amazing question. I was honestly looking forward to seeing that fight, and I think Mike made a mistake, and that's what got him caught. I think Mike and I have different styles, even though we look similar. People think that we look at it, but one of the key factors that we have is because we come from a similar background. If you had a superpower, our superpower would be to control time and space. So we can control time and space better than everybody. So that's why when people see us and when they fight, and they're like, "Oh, why does this guy look so bad?" It's because we can control time and space, and that other person doesn't understand that. I think where Mike, I think he had Lima hurt. And Mike's always been a bit of a prankster or jokester when he fights and when he competes and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of hurt him even in the past fighting, where he's playing around instead of just dominating somebody or finishing somebody off. I think he hurt Lima, and he went to kind of play and clown around when you have to realize the caliber of opponent that you have across from you. At least this is me being the fly on the wall outside looking in, realizing the caliber of opponent that you have in front of you, when if he would have stuck to his basics, he would have almost, because he staggered Lima, I think he would have been able to finish him, but he kind of went to playing around a little bit, and that's what ended up getting him caught with the kick to the leg, and then he made the mistake of getting up, panicking, and getting up and got caught with a beautiful uppercut. I think that's where he really made the mistake. Mike and I are two completely different fighters. If you look at our offense, you look at our defense, you look at our skill set as far as what techniques we throw and the volume that we put out, I think it would be an entirely a different fight. And I think Lima is probably one of the best stand-up fighters, all around welterweights in the world. Whether people want to give him the credit where it's due or not, he's an awesome, amazing stand-up fighter. And I think like I said, he's one of the best, and he's kind of ran through the entire division, but now I'm here in the division, and I'm a different animal when it comes to that. So I would love the opportunity to go out and test my skill set. And that's, like I said, no disrespect towards him or towards Mike. I think they're both amazing athletes. I would love to see that fight again, see Mike grow, because that's the first opportunity that someone's ever put him back where he's had to evolve and had to grow as a person, as a fighter. And I think Mike's an amazing athlete. I think Lima's an amazing champion. Like I said, he was considered the best stand-up artist in MMA, but now you have to realize that I am here in MMA, not just in the kickboxing world anymore.
Hi, Derek. How's it going today?
It's going well. How are you?
Good. So this fight, obviously, you're back in the lightweight division after going back down to featherweight for the Grand Prix. So my question has to be, how does it feel to not cut as much weight again? And what do you think is going to be the biggest differences in the cage after at 155 and then coming back from 145?
Well, I mean, it feels great to be back at 155, obviously not having to cut as much weight. I've been able to focus more on trying to, hit the strength training hard and pack on some muscle. And I feel more comfortable. I feel more energized from it, So I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to get back in there and showcase what power I can bring at 155, even though I may not be the biggest 155. I'm going to be able to push the pace, and I just feel good where I'm at right now.
Right. Yeah. And the opponent that you're fighting now, Keone Diggs, is also undefeated, but this isn't the first time you've taken on one of these undefeated prospects, as you did fight AJ McKee. So my question is, are you excited to test yourself once again against an undefeated guy?
Absolutely. He's, when you're undefeated, you've got pressure to keep that keep that undefeated record. And, this is, probably his biggest fight to date, personally. On the big stage, and I'm just looking to go out there and perform and put on a spectacular show, and I mean completely dominate him. So the challenge itself is there. I'm just going to go in there and capitalize.
Yeah, and originally you were not supposed to fight Keone Diggs. You were supposed to fight Roger Huerta. So I'm interested in if the preparation in between, but like for Huerta and for Diggs was a bit different because, you have to formulate a whole new game plan.
Against Roger, I was preparing for a scrap. And then when I found out I was fighting Keone, same thing, preparing for a scrap because he appears to be a good scrapper. He seems pretty technical on the ground. As far as changing my game plan, I mean, it remains the same. I'm going to bring the pressure. I'm going to push forward and implement my strategy, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. I mean, that's what I train for. I train to be well-rounded, and, I mean, I'm trying to evolve in this game. And, I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to evolve. You got to improve and change up your game and learn new things if you want to stay on the top.
Just a couple more starting with Zach.
Hi, John. Thanks for the time today. So one thing that a lot of people have noticed is you're performing at such a high level at an age where many athletes cannot replicate anywhere close to the ability that you're still putting out. So my question to you is, how really do you maintain your longevity, and how much longer do you think you have? Because do you see you have no signs of slowing down?
I lift weights. But yeah, I think, resistance training, strength training is the real fountain of youth. There are studies that show that heavy lifting keeps your telomeres long. Your telomeres keep your DNA intact and healthy. I think that I stay away from processed foods. I eat a lot of whole foods. I eat a lot of meat, a lot of natural fats. I stay away from seed oils and vegetable oils. I think I just have a really good diet and, the lifting weights, training all year round, not letting myself get too out of shape. I think they're big. I think it's a big a part of being healthy. My dad's 75 and he's had he had a heart attack a few years ago, but he's still a very healthy guy and he's still very active. He does a lot of woodworking. He's outside working all the time, plays a lot of golf. And, I would still say, even though he has a pacemaker, he seems 10 years younger than what he is. And I think my grandmother is 95 years old and she's a ball of energy. And I think, moving things that move don't age as fast. So, you just get off your butt, maybe turn down the Netflix or turn off the Netflix and do something physical.
Right. And your opponent in this fight, Neiman Gracie, obviously renowned for his amazing submission ability, and your game plan and what you specialize in kind of takes him into his world with his grappling. But a lot of people would think that you have the advantage on the feet in this fight, even though it seems like your game plans more revolve around your wrestling. So are you planning more to exploit the striking advantage that you think you have, or do you want to challenge him on the ground?
So, a lot of people don't really know what I'm doing when I fight, but I never force anything. I never force a takedown. I'm never looking to get the takedown. I go into the fight taking what's easy. And if the guy opens up and the takedown comes easy, that's where it goes. So I don't ever come in with a game plan like I have to do this in order to win. I have to be in shape. I have to be strong, and I have to react appropriately to the situations that come around. The fit smash system that I've come up with answers all those questions, and as long as I'm in shape and my mind is working right, I'm going to make the right choices and win all the scrambles in every position. So if that means he gives me an easy takedown and I get it and I go to work there, I'll do that. If he makes it easy for me to jab and stay at distance, then I'll do that too.
Hi, Patrick. Thanks for the time today.
Anytime, man. I appreciate it.
So, as you mentioned earlier, you believe that you're better everywhere than Juan Archuleta, and he's primarily known for his striking, and you're primarily known for your grappling. So I'm wondering, are you going to try and play to your strength, or do you really want to test yourself against the striking pedigree to prove that you are, in fact, better everywhere?
No, man, I don't necessarily just call myself a grappler. I guess they just named me that because I finish people on the ground. I could fight standing up as well, and it just so happened that no one's been able to stuff a takedown. So, I don't mind wherever the fight goes. I don't need to prove myself just because he's a striker, I think I'm already the better striker anyway. So, wherever the fight goes, wherever it plays out, I just plan on dragging him to hell, man. No matter where it goes, I plan on engaging and fighting. So, to me, it does not matter if we stay standing up for 25 minutes or if we hit the mat in the first minute, I'm ready just to go fight him. And I'm going to let my fighting prove that I'm better than him everywhere.
Right. And throughout your entire career, you've been known for your activities. You do fight a lot. But as we've seen with these fighters before who become champion, their activity seems to drop off a little bit. So I'm wondering, are you planning to be an active champion who, and how many times do you want to defend your belt per year?
3 times a year at least, man. I want to fight 3 times a year if I got the title, especially because it's a longer fight. I used to pride myself on fighting 4 times a year. I did it my whole career. But 3 times would be a little better because, you have those extra 2 rounds of damage, but I want to be an active champion, right here, when I win on Saturday night, I'd like to defend it in 2020 here and keep the ball rolling. I've only fought on New Year's Eve last year, basically. So with COVID going on, I want to fight here, put this guy away, and then I want to get back out there. You know what I mean? I want to stay active.
Yeah, and before this, your fight was in the cross promotion event with Ryzen, and I'm wondering, like, how different is it for even though you weren't really a Ryzen fighter for the night, you were still fighting under their banner with the co-promotion. So, how different is it the way that they do things compared to Bellator?
It's a lot different, man. You know, you have way more fans. That arena's huge. The crowd doesn't make any noise, and I fought underneath a completely different rule set. I made 134 pounds instead of 135, and I'm one of the guys that brought themselves over there. I think, you know, in the uncomfortable. I don't know if any Bellator people have ever won in the Ryzen ring either. I think Darian Caldwell fought there, and then John Macapa. So, and they were both unsuccessful. So, you know, I did it differently. You know, I put the guy away in 90 seconds. And since then, that guy's been on a 2-fight win streak. So it's a lot different. And for that night, I was a Ryzen fighter, you know, being underneath the rule set, being in the square instead of the cage, instead of the circle, should I say. It's just a lot different. And, you know, it was a good night for me.
Hi, Lyoto. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you.
So, as you mentioned before, you're kind of going in between weight classes from middleweight and light heavyweight, and this fight's obviously at light heavyweight. So, I'm wondering, over the years, as such a veteran of the game, has the weight cuts gotten any harder with age, and which weight class feels better for you in the cage?
Which class?
Well, how have the weight classes cuts gotten harder with age, and what weight class feels better on you in the cage?
So I believe that I can fight in 205 and 185, man. I have no problem to cutting weight. Of course, it's not like 205 because 205, I don't need to cut too much weight. But when I'm when I drop to 185, I have to cut too much weight, but I have to be more strict with my diet. But I haven't seen any problem on that. So I just want to be here and fight with the best.
Yes, and as someone who was constantly in the main event scene in the UFC, this is I believe, your first Bellator main event. So I'm wondering, does it feel a little bit more comfortable for you now that you're back in the main event limelight?
To be honest, so I don't think like that, you know, because once I think too much about that, I'm gonna put pressure on my back. I don't want to put pressure on my back. Main event is a main event as a first fight. Like fight is a fight. You have to be there and fight. You know, you have more hype when you have a main event in your back. But I try to not think about that. I try just to give my best and enjoy the fight and stay with my fans and enjoy that.